There was a Viking named Sten who had spent his entire life in search of a glorious death in battle. He had lived through countless raids and battles, but each time he emerged victorious, unscathed and more desperate to die a warrior's death. As he grew older, Sten's determination to enter Valhalla became an obsession. He longed for the embrace of the Valkyries and the endless feasting and fighting that awaited him in the afterlife. But despite his many attempts to find a worthy opponent, he remained unfulfilled. Sten was a respected member of his village, and his comrades admired his bravery and skill in battle. But they also saw the toll his quest was taking on him. He had become reckless, throwing himself into battle with little regard for his own safety, hoping that this would be the battle where he would finally meet his end. He had followed dozens of famous leaders, fought in hundreds of battles, his body covered in scars. The children in his village seeing his body as a tapestry of history, but Sten hated every scar, seeing him only as a failure to reach Odin's hall. Years passed, and Sten's body became frail and weak. He knew that his time was running out, and he became more and more desperate to achieve his goal. He had amassed a fortune from his life of raids and wars. The gold and silver meant nothing to him. Then one night, just as the sun set and the people rested in their homes, a neighboring village mounted a surprise attack, catching Sten's village off guard. Sten saw his chance and charged into battle with the ferocity of a man possessed. For a moment, it seemed as though Sten's wish had finally come true. He was fighting with all his might, taking on several opponents at once, but even as he struck down one foe after foe, his body grew weak. The rage and bloodlust didn't carry him the way it used to. As he slew one of the raiders, catching his breath over the fresh kill, an arrow struck Sten in the chest. The old warrior fell to his knee, then a second arrow pierced his side, sending him to the ground. Sten laying there, hoping to hear the beating wings of the Valkyrie, instead all he heard was the sounds of battle around him. He lifted himself off the ground, to keep fighting, to prove himself to the gods. Stumbling to his feet, he let out a roar and charged forward. In his fury he killed 4 more men, before finding himself surrounded, fighting as only a man prepared to die can. He raised his sword to deliver a cleaving blow to the man closest to him. Then a blade pierced Sten's back. One of the raiders had finally gotten a fatal strike. The sword drew back through Sten's body. He stumbled forward and fell to his knees, then fell onto his back, looking up at the night sky. Sten slew so many of the raiders that they didn't have the numbers to take the village. He got to watch the retreat and the men that killed him running past him like scared children. They would remember the old Viking who stood without fear and sent so many men to Valhalla. As Sten lay dying on the battlefield, he felt a sense of relief wash over him. He knew that he would not be going back to his village. Instead, he would be journeying to Valhalla, where he would finally find the glory he had been seeking for so long. In his final moments, Sten smiled, finally hearing the wings of Valkyries, sounding like music played by beautiful maidens. He watched as the stars and lights of fires blended together, in a way that can only be described as heavenly. He knew that his legacy would live on as a fierce warrior who had sought death not out of fear, but out of a desire to achieve the ultimate honor and glory in the afterlife. And with that, Sten's eyes closed and took his final breath, still smiling as his body fell limp on the ground.